Your journey to the unknown begins now. Have your boarding passes ready.
Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Station podcast, the only train ticket to the unknown. I'm your host, Jaron Daniels, and joined with me is my brother, Roman Daniels. How's it going tonight?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Dude, I'm excited. We have an awesome guest tonight. Um, Dale Boswell. This guy has been around the block in the Bigfoot community, not in a bad way. This guy is somebody I've been keeping tabs on for a little while. I've seen him not just because of the Bigfoot community, but this guy's been involved with, he's had a music career, basically. He's been involved in the musician world from Alabama all the way down through, Tennessee, all the things. There's people he's met that are celebrities that you might know of, and he's just had a wild life. And besides all that, if we could get into just that, that would be like a 2-hour podcast in itself. But we're able to talk to him about something that's even like, how do you go from music to Sasquatch community? And it's actually what drove me to make that recent post with the Sasquatch with the guitar.
Oh yeah.
Because it reminded me that, hey, you never know where it's going to connect, and somebody you meet can change your whole life, and something can change your whole life. And so Dale Boswell, welcome to the podcast. I know I haven't given you a ton of, or I didn't tell a ton of your background, but we're excited to have you here. How you doing tonight?
Hey, y'all. I'm doing wonderful. I'm hanging there, just being lazy today. But hey, that was a pretty good intro. I'll take that.
Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, that's not even as far as we could go with it. There's so much more that he's gone through in his life, but we can save that for another podcast, and I'm hoping we can have him on again. But Dale, yeah, we're excited to talk to you. I mean, I know you've had some crazy experiences, and because we're a supernatural podcast, we're really into, my favorite subject, honestly, is Sasquatch. And so this is why I'm always all over the Sasquatch pages on Facebook and different places. And, I follow all the podcasts and different things, YouTube channels, Thinker Thunker, all those things. And if you are part of the Bigfoot world, if you're listening to this, you might have heard his story before on another show, but we're really excited to have him on. And so, Dale, I would love to just have you take the floor. And I know that you've had some crazy experiences starting from, I think, 2018, where you had that howl and some different things happen. Could you get into, I mean, how you got into all this, what led up to you getting involved in Sasquatch, and maybe get into that first initial push that got you into it?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, actually, of course, my beginning is like a lot of people's in search of in the shows we watched and the tabloids and things. But it wasn't until 2014 that I actually got involved in seriously in the research end of it. I had always been interested in it, and watching everything I could watch on it, just like everybody else, and learning to talk to as many people as I could, that may have be good credible people that could give me advice and things such as that. Well, anyway, and I think I sent you this video, and it tells a story, but I think it's called White Bigfoot in Alabama, White Bigfoot site or something like that. But it documents what really changed things around my neighborhood, which affectionately I call it Boogerville. All the boogers running around here. But my daughter had a doctor's appointment, and I was about to pull out the driveway, take her to appointment one morning, and then we got to the end of the driveway, and she said, "Oh, by the way," she said, "do we have polar bears in Alabama?" And I hit them brakes real quick, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And it was funny because to start with, she could care nothing about Bigfoot. She never has, still don't really actually anything. But what happened was the day before, I had built this what we call them cutouts now, cutout, and but being a graphics designer, I did something different, and I did mine from a front on view, and it kind of, looks like your average Sasquatch. And uh, it was well, I built out of a piece of plywood, 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide, which is your average size of Bigfoot descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut it out and I painted it black. And I stood against my carport that evening. I was going to paint the other side the next day, but she said she had come out to smoke a cigarette that night about 2:30 in the morning. She said I looked over there at the tree line. She said what looked like a polar bear to me was looking at that thing you built. So that freaked me out. I couldn't wait to get home from the doctor's appointment. Just start checking this out because I've never checked around my own neighborhood. I thought they were everywhere but here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've traveled from here to New Mexico, different places and friends and things. But you never think they're in your backyard. And I live way out in the country in east central Alabama, not far from Chattahoochee River and Fort Benning, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, that area. So it's real squatchy in some places. But anyway, what she described, and the only thing she can compare it to was a polar bear, but I think she saw a white Bigfoot probably. And I believe they're very territorial and very curious. And I think maybe this white booger seen that silhouette of the thing I built and was wondering well, who's in my neighborhood now,
Yeah.
and I used to call it my Bigfoot decoy because it worked one time, as far as I know. But the thing that really got me is when I got her to describe in detail, and she actually, it wasn't 40 feet from my front porch to the tree line where she seen this thing. She pointed exactly to the limb about where its head was, and it was around 8 feet tall. But she said it was white, and she said back when you got down to the knees, and she described, she said, kind of like a Labrador retriever when they got that real pretty hair,
Mm-hmm.
And she said it was more of a hair than a fur, she could tell, and she said a little silky even. But she said when you got down to the knees, from the knees down, had a little orangey texture to it. And she said, kind of like those Labrador retrievers when they get in the mud or in the water, in the mud, and their legs are a little discolored. She said that's what it looked like. And I thought, well, that's that. that I can see that. But this is what it got me. She said then all of a sudden she said it was right here, and she said I was looking at it. She said and it did this. She said not a sound, and not a whisper, not a tree limb, not a crack, not nothing. She said, and again, and she said, this is the way she describes. She said, I was looking at it like this, and it was like that. It was just gone.
Wow.
So yeah, and you can see that see her story, her telling the story on one of those videos I sent you. If you folks want to look on my YouTube side, I think it's called White Bigfoot Sighting, but you'll see her on the thumbnail. It's my daughter. But and I always tell this story because it kind of kicked things off, with me in my backyard. So along after that, I started studying more around my backyard, hanging more out, out back. And one day we were back there, and Robin, my wife, she pointed at some trees out in the woods. She said, "Don't they look like one of them tree structure things you look at like on TV? You looking at?" And I'm like, "Where you at? What are you talking about?" And I looked, and there was, you ever seen where they make those asterisks?
Mm-hmm.
It's not real pretty. There was some asterisk things set up in the woods, just not far from my house, but inside of my house, you could see it from there. And we got to looking more, and I seen tree bends, X's. I seen tree breaks, and all this I have on film. I don't know if I sent that to you or not, but it looked like a war zone back there. And so from then on, that's when I started spending more time in the backyard, and it's was my research area. But I know there's something going on back there, So I built it's not a gazebo, but kind of like a gazebo, about 4 feet off the ground. Rails and chairs and stuff where I could sit up there at night up off the ground with my thermal cameras and my night vision cameras and stuff, and just watch what's going on. And I'd see deer and raccoons and pigs and I think I even saw a bear one time creeping across my backyard. That's very rare. In my parts. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat.
So,
What if you don't mind, what is your backyard like? Is it like big woods separating other neighborhoods? Like do you have like big swatches of trees and stuff? Or is it like a really
yeah.
small area of just trees and they're kind of moving back and forth?
Oh no, I'm like out in the middle of the country, and I may have sent you a photograph, I guess you call it, that I had taken with the Google satellite camera thing of my house one time.
Yeah,
And
is that off of Nichols Road? Is that where that one of
yeah,
the pictures you sent me? Okay.
Oh yeah, I saw
So
that.
so that was very
yeah,
very very foresty, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
sucks because I tried to show Roman these videos, and for some reason it won't let me like play them back again, even though I watched all of them. So Roman's a little bit in the dark, which is kind of cool. We're gonna have like the
Raw reactions.
the raw reaction with the regular
Oh,
reaction.
okay, yeah. But and if you look at that photo, or you've seen that photograph,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think people ask me why do I think it's so active around my house, and if you look at that photograph, the tree line forest goes almost like an hourglass and goes out, and the road's right in the middle, and my house is just right off the road. Now,
Yeah.
another thing, there's still woods everywhere else, but if you cross the road in front of my house, you go across the road right directly into more woods. In other places you go across, you might be a big field or a subdivision on down or a trailer park or something, a few miles down. So, I've always just theorized if that's what's happening, because if I was a booger, well, I've often said, where does a booger cross the road? In front of my house. I believe it, I don't know, but I think that's one of the reasons I've had so much activity, and I've had quite a bit. I've actually saw a booger just one time with my own eyes, but I've captured some crazy stuff on video and audio.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you the tree structures. I did see that video myself, and I really appreciate you sending me some of that. For the audience that's just listening, or even if you're listening on video or seeing it on video, um, what I liked about it was there was certain, like the one you showed me where the stick, well, showed the audience. There was one huge branch that goes all the way down and then under a log, and it's
Yeah.
like pushed under that log, and like
Wow.
natural causes really couldn't do that.
Got to rule that out. Yeah.
And I would say that's pretty confidently. And then you got like those other structures that we always see, right? If you're doing Bigfoot research, you'll see there's the standard ones that are pretty understandable where they're crossing over, like you're saying. And you had a lot of that. It does look like a war zone. So the fact that I don't know if this is true or not, but I remember you said on the video you never heard anything when you were in your house. Was that still the case? Like you didn't hear noise at all when that stuff was going down, or even at all? Like, did you notice there was regular trees before and then it turned into tree structures, or did you just notice one day that they were always like that? Like, I guess what was the background with that?
Well, yeah, I got you noticing. I'd go out there one day and see this, and go out there and next day and be something different, just right close by. And and sometimes you seen it look like a war zone back there sometimes.
Yeah.
So I tried to debunk as much as I can, like you're supposed to. So I thought, maybe it's the freaking weather. So many times when I knew some severe storms were coming in, I had actually went out there in the woods and filmed everything
Mm-hmm.
before the storm, and go back and film, later after the storm, and see very little change. And then have a few quiet days and stuff, then go back out there and see some crazy tree bend or something, or log stacked weird. And I don't know, what's going on out there. But
Yeah.
it's crazy, and it's it's I don't know. It could be spooks, could be boogers. I don't know.
What do you make
But
of the tree structures? What do you think that after doing some research, I guess just getting into that first, what do you make of them? What do you think what do you think they're trying to tell us, I guess?
I'm not sure, and I haven't researched that a whole lot. Even though where I live in a Indian well the Uchi Indian territory. I mean, there's well, actually, I'm not far from where the Trail of Tears started. Actually,
Okay.
Trail of Tears, all that. I'm just not far from that. Just down Fort Mitchell.
Yeah.
I tell people I live in Phoenix City, but I'm right on the borderline between Phoenix City and Fort Mitchell, Alabama. Uh,
Okay.
but the guy who wrote Star Spangled Banner,
Hmm.
uh, what is it, Scott? Anyway, but he was actually stationed down here at one time at Fort Mitchell. And talking about songwriters, he wrote a good one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, from what I've seen on tree structures and studied, and there's lots of things you can see around here that were possibly made by the native uh, uh, Indians and things people that once lived here. Where you'd see one and it'd be bit being kind of funny, then they'll go back up, and
Hmm.
they're supposedly pointing towards something, but I'm not studied enough to really talk that much about it, but it's just interesting. I'd love
That
to
was
know.
really that was really cool that your daughter got to see that white one though. Did she? And I love the description of the orange legs because that makes a lot of sense. Like if it just walked through a creek or something, a creek, like
Mhm.
just like when a dog walks through the water, it gets all wet and it totally turns that orangey tone.
Yeah.
And so that
Right.
was really descriptive. Did she talk about the face at all? Like, did she talk about it looking old or anything? Because sometimes when they're white, they might be an older Sasquatch, or maybe that's just their natural blondish tone that they're born with. Who knows? But did she describe like any facial features or anything?
No, she couldn't tell any facial features. She just said it looked like a polar bear standing there and moving around a little bit, and it'd look at her, then it'd look back at that thing I built. Is the way she
Wow.
describes it. But she said it just everything was just white. But she said the hair was pretty.
Yeah.
It wouldn't fuzzy like a polar bear would be. But the color is what she compared it to. If you
Yeah.
see some polar bears, you'll see where they're digging around for in the water and stuff. They'll come up and their legs are stuff a little orangish looking. So
Mhm.
made
Yeah.
sense to me.
Yeah. That was really cool.
Yeah, I think it was interesting, like you're saying, Rome, but also, like what else could it be besides a squatch? If it's
Right.
in the area where you live, there's no such thing as anything
And you said
else.
the occasional black bear, and sometimes they've got like an albinoism going on, but it's
Mhm.
so rare. Yeah.
But if she's saying polar bear, that was like a big bear, because big polar bears are advantageously bigger than like a standard black bear. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
cool. That's really interesting. And so once she told you that, that was is that when you're like, all right, I'm ready to start like really looking into this?
Oh, I tried to talk her out of that doctor's appointment. I was ready to back on up and head on behind the house and hit the woods.
That's
Well,
awesome.
and I know you were mentioning that you saw one firsthand yourself one time. And I do remember reading the story. I think I got the right one that you'd sent me. And I think, I mean, just reading it was very, very interesting for a couple reasons. And Roman's still raw reaction over here. But one of the things that blew me away was the sort of infrasound thing that you felt. You hear that a lot from the stuff you see when people see these things, and it really just takes them off guard, and it's something that we can't really explain. Um, can you get into that story? And like, I know you were looking for a fox or to take a video of a fox. I think that's the one you're talking about. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's one, and that's the only time to this day that I saw something with my own eyes.
Yeah. Would you get into
But
that with us?
yeah, it's absolutely it was and this goes to 2018. I started seeing structures stuff around 2014, but that's about it, and never caught anything else. But 2018, for some reason, was really busy. I don't know if they were migrating or I don't know what, but I caught so much evidence and saw so many things in the year 2018 right here in my backyard. And we're starting with that one. And I believe that was in May. And the funny thing is, it was early in the morning, like 9:30 in the morning. And I was sitting at my table drinking some coffee, looking out the window out in the backyard. And I saw a beautiful red fox out in the little field out. My yard just got a little field and woods and stuff, and you can see it. And I'm like, well, ain't that pretty? So I was going to pull a National Geographic, and grab my camera and just go film that fox out in the backyard. So one thing I thought afterwards that may contribute to this sighting is normally when I go outside out in the woods, I don't sneak out there. I just walk doing my thing because I've learned that these boogers, for the most part, they know you're there and they know you're coming, which is not always the case. So sometimes there are surprises and you may sneak up on them, and when they're busy or something, that has happened, and surprise them, but not too often they know you're coming. So this particular morning, being it was that fox, I thought I'm going to just sneak out there. So as far as sneaking, tiptoeing and being a little quieter. And I had my camera, and I walked out, and I walked towards this fox, and I was filming it. Then it went towards the left side of my house, towards my neighbor's house, and it's also wood out there. And beyond this house is the next people's property. It's just nothing but woods and swamps and lakes and things. And there's a fence there, and a road goes right beside the fence. And it goes back a little piece. You can just almost see it with your eyes, and comes back around to the highway. It's sort of like a U. Well, it run to the fence into this road right here, and went towards the right, towards the woods. So I figured, okay, well, that's pretty. And so I put my phone back in my pocket, and like I say, it was a beautiful morning, like 9:30 in the morning, and the sun was coming out. It looked like a movie. And like the U shape of that road, it was coming down right on the other side of the U. The sunshine just dead on the trail or the little dirt road. It basically looks like a trail, but it's a little dirt road. And it was beautiful. But suddenly, just from my left side, and I always explain it like this: if you turn your eyes all the way to the left, and you move them as slow as you can all the way to the right, ever how many seconds that is. I think that's probably about as long as I watch this thing. And it come out from my left side, and it was fast. And when you see something come out of your vision, you can just turn, and what is that? And the weird thing, it was leaning at about a 15-degree angle, kind of like a skier, but his head was tilted up kind of funny, or head or hair or whatever it was, but it was moving so fast, and like my daughter said, it looked like it was freaking gliding across that rough dirt road back there and through them woods, but it was just moving that smooth, and it was far enough where I couldn't see any detail other than it was solid black, and I could tell it was on two legs, and it was at least man size. I didn't really see much where something I could compare it to at that time, but it was at least man size, if not bigger. And so the first thing I thought was, debunk. So I looked up. We do have airplanes fly around once in a while from Fort Benning and stuff, and how shadow goes across to the ground of the woods, or birds sometimes. So first thing I did was look up, just see if there were any birds or planes, make sure this wasn't no shadow going through there, but but there was, and then I think, shadows don't block off the trees, they're growing beside,
Mm-hmm.
But it was just last few seconds, and it was gone, and I think, and this again after thinking afterwards of what could have happened, I believe this. Being I was being sneaky, he wouldn't pay me much attention, but he seen this red fox. And I bet it come after that red and took off after the red fox. And as it come out, it looked over and probably seen my old butt standing there and probably, zapped me or something. Because And I say that because right at that instant, like I say, he come and he was gone, and right at that instant, it felt like all the blood went to my head. I felt like, just flushy, I felt like I was going to cry. Felt like I was hyperventilating, but I don't know why, because it didn't scare me. And I wasn't that excited. I was still more like amazed, like, golly, please, that's what I thought. But I don't know what happened. And I started shaking. I didn't know if I was having a heart attack or what. And being that I always documented everything, overly documented everything. From since I was a kid, my whole music career, anything to do, and family and stuff. So the first thing I thought was grab my camera and document me in case I'm having a heart attack or what's going on out here in the woods. So when they find me, they can say, "Oh, look at him. Booger scared him to death or something." I don't know, but so and I may have sent you this video too, but I do remember pulling my camera out of my pocket and trying to figure out, how to get it and find the app. Like I just so confused. And I finally got the camera app on, and I still wasn't sure if I was upside down or what, but I hit the record button and come to find out I was upside down. But I just told what I had just seen, and I'm just walking distance from my house. I could see my house from where I was standing, and I just said, here's what happened, So and I hung up, and then I called a good friend of mine. He was a legendary researcher, and he's passed on now, but I had just been talking to him. So I called him back and told him what was going on, and he kind of talked me through the woods, just slow down, catch your breath, grab hold of a tree if you need to, keep your eyes on your house. And that's what I did, and it seemed like it was 1,000 miles, but like I could probably throw the rock and hit my house from where I was. So I got in the back door, and my wife, being a retired nurse, she thought I was having a heart attack or something. So she got to check me out and figure maybe it's maybe some kind of anxiety attack or something, And I told her what had happened, and we figured maybe that's what it was. So it just so happens that same afternoon I had already scheduled a doctor's appointment. So I went to see my doctor. Like I say, this happened 9:30 in the morning. My doctor's appointment was like at 4:30. So I went to see my doctor, and she did all the, put the thing on your finger and take your blood pressure and weigh you, all this stuff. Well, as she was taking my blood pressure, she took it and she stopped for a second, and she kind of looked, and she took it again. Then she stopped, and she finally looked at me. She said, "Mr. Boswell, are you feeling okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good." She said, "Well, your blood pressure has never been this high." And I thought for a second, I ain't never seen a booger before either. And, I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it, So I told her, what went on, being my doctor, so I guess it's in my medical record somewhere, Dale saw a booger had an anxiety attack or something, so I'm validated on that end of it. But that was the only time I've actually seen something with my own eyes. And like I said, I keep saying something because it could have been a dog man. I've had some possible, I think, dog man sightings possibly here in my backyard. Well, I call it my backyard is all the woods surrounding my house. I don't own that much of it, just a little piece of it.
Sure.
But it could have been a spook, a witch. I don't know, but that's the only time I actually saw something going with my own eyes.
Can I ask you a couple questions about just to kind of further the experience? Is that okay if I ask you a few quick questions about it?
Yeah, absolutely. If I can take a swig of my tea.
Do it.
Yeah, I need a swig of my energy drink here too.
So,
all right, let's drink it.
Cheers. My question is, okay, so you saw this creature, black, gliding through the woods. Do you remember seeing feet like moving? Like the legs were like moving back and forth like in a locomotion like we would do as humans, or was it literally gliding? And then with its head up, do you remember, do you feel like it was looking straight still? Or was it kind of like, did it seem out of it, or did it seem like it was determined for something?
Well, yeah. From my distance, I could see probably about from mostly from the knees up, because there was woods in between us, from that road, how it does like a U and circles around, and it's all woods in there too, but you can see through them, and you guys can see where the road comes around. But I could see probably from his knees up, but from the knees up wasn't doing this. Like down that dirt road, it was doing this, and
So crazy.
and like I say, whatever was it was like it was tilted back, and like somebody running and got the head tilted way back. You ever seen somebody do that or run?
It's like a salad. It's like that lizard that does that, where
Yeah,
it
when
like
it
runs
runs.
when it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been one of them critters. I don't know, but that's the weirdest part of it, And I thought, well, maybe it's just a lot of hair or something flopping back there or whatever. Uh, and I could see what looked like arms, but they wouldn't look like they wasn't really moving,
Hmm.
But you could see it moving. You could see its shadow bouncing off the trees, from the way the sun was looking at it. But
Yeah.
it's one of them things. Every time I tell the story and people talk about this, I can still see it.
Yeah,
to this day how weird that was.
that's not the first time we've heard that. We always hear about the weird way that they move. Like they don't move like we do, and it's just very, very strange. Like the movement feels cartoonish sometimes, from what you hear from other eyewitnesses, and it
Yeah,
just defies sort of our what we know about physics and gravity and stuff. What it reminds me of is like when a four-wheel drive vehicle that has really good shocks and
Mhm.
it absorbs all that movement for the
right.
actual vehicle, but the shocks are moving. Like you don't see that part, but it just reminds me of that with the way their legs can kind of absorb
Like
everything.
they
It's
got a
like they're
good
gliding.
handle on their knees or something
Yeah.
to where their joints just you don't see it. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
isn't it
And
fascinating?
I believe their feet. Like the like a bulldozer. Like a track.
Yeah.
I believe their feet kind of act like a track, and
Mm.
I
Yeah,
believe
because they
their
have that
feet
mid
kind of
tarsal.
does all that or something. And I think that's why they can walk so slow.
That
With
makes
me and you,
sense.
we boom, 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 boom. But if you can put it down like that,
And then yeah,
that's just a theory of mine.
I've never
Uh,
heard somebody say that, but I
that
really
makes a
like that.
ton of
That makes a
sense.
lot of sense.
Wow.
Did you notice two more questions with that situation? Did you notice a smell? And did you hear them breaking through the tree line, or was there literally no noise?
no, I didn't. I didn't hear a sound, none whatsoever. Yeah, not a sound. It was crazy. And
No
of course, it
smell.
was going down. The area it was going was basically a rutted out road, so it wasn't really going through the woods, even though it had trees and woods on both sides of it. But
Hmm.
it was going down that other side of that road, which later I got out and I walked that road to try to find some footprints or something, and I didn't find anything, because it was just a hard dirt road. Uh, but yeah, I didn't, and then I didn't smell anything. And like I say, immediately it was so fast that I hyperventilated or whatever it was. I don't know what happened after that as far as the booger. I hope he kept going after that fox.
You didn't get, I know you mentioned, I thought this was interesting how you mentioned like how you almost wanted to cry. Did you get any kind of weird like feeling like you weren't supposed to see it? Sometimes witnesses say that, like almost like a shameful feeling, and it kind of makes you feel like you want to tear up. Is that part of the reason you almost cried, you thought maybe?
Well, I guess I've never heard it explained like that, but yes, that's what it felt like. When I say I felt like all the blood, I said, when my head was going to explode, just like when you really get frustrated or mad, or that's happened very few times in my life, but I know what it feels like, and judging from I mean, like I said, I filmed me right then, and you could see my face was red and looked like it was bloated. But
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what kind of feeling. Confusion was the biggest problem I was having, because I know I would see my house is right there, what's going on here, and I thought I could have been having a heart attack, but I wasn't hurting, wasn't having no kind of chest pains or nothing like that. I was hyperventilating a little bit, and I've never done that, and I've seen some pretty crazy stuff and been in crazy situations like most people, and I met some big stars that would make you nervous anyway.
Yeah.
but I've never felt like that.
I'm glad you had one of the four horsemen of Bigfoot to call, though. You didn't say who it was, but Jeff Green or Renee DeHinden or somebody. And they're
Or
like,
what's his
hey,
name?
hold on to the tree. That was
Freeman.
awesome.
Might have been
Mhm.
Freeman, but yeah,
That's good.
I think it's awesome that you had somebody to get a hold of that could talk you out of it.
Mhm.
As far as if you're okay with shifting gears, Roman, the other
Mm.
one that I want to
Yeah.
talk
Oh, well, actually, was a fellow named that was affectionately known as Bubba Gump, and the
Oh, okay.
Bigfoot
Okay.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a dear friend. He was a very well. He was Coonbo Baker's closest friend. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah.
That's
Very cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, another one, because that was a cool experience in itself, right? That's like obviously Class A sighting. We love those. You would love it. It's something you chase forever. But as far as the next one that you shared with me, I was pretty intrigued by this one. I know it wasn't like obviously Class A because it was pitch black, but I'm really intrigued by this juvenile mama one that you sent me. That video was to me was just it was it looked just like a silhouette of a massive adult Sasquatch standing like
Yeah.
what 7 feet from you or something. Can you allude to what happened there?
Oh, it probably was no more than 3 or 4 feet from me, but that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. To this
Yeah.
day, it still freaks me out how that happened and where it happened. I've actually got kind of like a monument post in the ground back there, right about 4 feet from my booger hut, where I saw this juvenile. Well, I didn't see it, but where I filmed it, and I got it in the ground just kind of as a monument about where I think this thing was standing at, just so. And it reminds me every time I go back there. But that's the craziest thing, and this is on my YouTube page also, and you really need to look at this. Uh, but what you're talking about again? This was in 2018 also. Uh, and it kind of starts as the other one, except it's just the opposite. It was about like 12 or 12:30 at night, and again I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I heard the awfully screaming or howling or bellowing or something out my window, uh, and way deep in the woods. So just instinctively I grabbed my camera, and back then I had a real video camera. You didn't use cell phones as much back then. In 2018, for stuff like this, I had a Sony Handycam.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty nice camera for the time, and actually I still got it. Uh, but I grabbed that camera and I grabbed a flashlight, of course, because it was dark. Um, but for some reason, I had told myself, I've been out there many times, just the shining flashlights, looking for eye shine, stuff like that, and I've caught some pretty cool eye shine videos also that again you look up on my video page. Uh, But I told myself, I said, next time I go out there looking for eye shine or something, I got to think. I said, well, if I was a booger and I'm standing over there and you shine the light over that way, I'm going this way. You shine this way, I'm going that way. So what I did is I had my camera running when I went out, walked out the back door, and this was just probably 40 feet from my back doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't throw a rock far, but I can guarantee I could have hit this booger with a rock standing on my back doorstep. But I had my camera rolling, and I tried to hold it with my flashlight, and I hit the flashlight and went boom, just like if something was there, I'm gonna catch it and not give it time to run, at least get a glimpse of something,
Sure.
But with my naked eyes, I didn't see anything, but I could still hear that screaming and hollering going. But I wasn't really looking that hard. I was kind of glancing at my view screen, but trying to hold my flashlight, see where I'm shining at the same time. And at one time, I thought I seen something foggy in my view screen, but the first time I thought it was, I guess maybe mist from the woods or something, rolling in. Anyway, uh, the lesson in this is me not actually seeing anything at the moment. I thought, okay, ain't nothing here. So I went in my room and my old desktop computer, like I've always done, to document everything. I took my SD card out of the camera and I uploaded the files, which included that one. And I didn't look at it again for 3 years till 2021. And then I was looking at sitting at my desktop, and I was just throwing away some files and stuff, and I seen this thumbnail. It was just black. I'm like, what's that? I forgot about that. And I hit on. I could hear that howling. I said, oh yeah, I remember that. But this time, it wasn't a little view screen. I was on the big screen on my computer. So when that come up, it freaked me out. I literally went running to find my wife. Say, you ain't gonna believe this. Yeah, and this is what I said. So I think I done captured a damn ghost monkey in my backyard. So that's what it looked like to me, And it's and I caught it from about here up, and you can see the eyes, like human-like nose, weird-looking monkey-like ears, and the weirdest thing is the brow seems like it comes off like this, still big as the brow, and looks like it goes and connects to its ears, not like one of them Klingons or something on Star Trek. But it was appeared to be white, and and like I was talking about sneaking up on things, being as that I was filming and had my flashlight, going crazy, and this thing was bellowing in the woods, and I think it was going towards whatever was screaming out in the woods. And, well, eventually somebody told me that was probably a deer in distress. I'm not that familiar with animal sounds, but somebody said that's probably what it was. So that's kind of weird. But anyway, this thing come up and again, go to my YouTube site and look at this, and you check it out yourself. And if you want to analyze it, I'll send you the raw video. You go through it like I've done for 3 years, frame by frame, and being a graphics designer, I can get in there in deep and look at pixels and everything, and stuff, and it's there. But this booger, I think I surprised it because its face is kind of like this, and it's gone,
Yeah.
and but and also it's coming through the woods, and what I thought was a mist looks like a little ghostly, misty figure. I think of this thing because it goes on up till it goes around and comes across me. When I started reviewing the film, but it was ghostly looking. I don't know if it's their camouflage abilities or cloaking and whatever it is, but that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And what you're talking about, like I said, I analyzed the film deep as hard as I could. And I remember one day I said, because it's very dark. You see how dark it is in there, but you can still see this juvenile booger come up and look at me and smile at me and go about his way. Well, when I turned the brightness up 100% on that film,
Mm-hmm.
It brought out something that literally freaked me out. And you've seen this. It looks like a freaking gorilla. You see the head and neck, and you see shoulder and little muscles, and even looks like the elbow and like the waist. Where it comes up in front of me, and I hate to use this word again, but it looks like it freaking floats off or glides off. Goes like that. And you can see it's blocking off trees between me and it. You can see it in the film where there's something there because the trees that block when it goes in front of them. And it wasn't no farther than an arm's length from me. And, it still freaks me out today. And it's still hard to believe, but it's there on the film, unless till somebody explain it to me, and I don't want to hear no AI crap, even, that's what you're hearing nowadays. But back then it was CGI. Oh, it's CGI, blah, 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 but I dared people, and still today, I challenge anybody. The total film is 57 seconds long, and there's more than these two creatures in there. There's actually something that I think was a dog man. Looks like it to me, and it was a very quick capture, but the side of its face, and it looks like a cartoon coyote. You see an arm come up in front of a tree, and where it turns toward the run, looks like run towards whatever's screaming in the woods. And you see what is clearly 5 fingernails. I guess the light was reflecting off of it. Look like they come up like this and go across it. And as it turns and heads towards the woods. And
Whoa.
And where this thing was standing at was a tree there in my backyard I knew very well. So I was able to actually go out there with the camera and the picture and stuff, and show right where that thing was standing at and where its arm come across that tree, which it was waist high to it when it come across. You know, it wasn't in there, but my wife stood in the exact spot, and that photograph or that video, it would have hit her right in the head, even though it was waist high to that creature when it come around. And of course, there was no sound or anything, but you know, and I'm still playing with that, and I don't talk about it a whole lot because the footage and stuff is not near as clear as I was able to get the juvenile booger and the mama. Get back to that thing floating off. Here's what I think that was. You know, you hear how these things again are family orientated territory and things. So I'm just wondering, what if that was a mama or papa was standing there beside me, and being that I didn't see this thing in front of me, that come in front of me, you know, I'm wondering if I had seen it and reached out toward it, if this thing would have tore my head off, you know, and I'd been on a David Pilates 411 film or something.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, you saying that, it freaks me out. It looks like I don't know, but it's I can't explain it, but it's there, you know.
It's scary to think that something that we don't quite understand, that acts and behaves like some kind of predator, could be that close to you without you really realizing it. You know what I mean? That's scary, and I would be thinking about that every time I'm in that backyard.
Well, and not to mention the confidence that they have to do that, because that thing was, well, maybe confidence, determination, maybe fear. You know, it's looking at it's young, you know, potentially. So I understand if there was like fear, and it's like, I'm just waiting to make a move, you know. But just the idea of them like being that, like I said, I was blown away from that video, because I'm like, if it was literally like 3 feet from me, I would, and then you find out later, I would probably have nightmares for weeks. Like, how the heck did I not see anything, feel anything, hear anything? And I'm focused on this, and there's something way bigger on this side of me. That was intriguing for sure. I really liked that.
Oh, it did, and like I say, it was 3 years after I found it, and it still freaks me out to this day. You know, that exactly what you explained. That how does that happen? You know, I can't explain it, but it happened.
Did you? Question for you. Did you? I think that you had Thinker Thunker look at one of your videos or examine one of your videos. He's kind of one of the better people when it comes to this stuff to kind of break down. Like, I love his what's it called, proportional DNA, where he kind of breaks down, you know, the length of the arms and length of the legs and how that differs from humans and everything. So he had a chance to look at one of your videos. Did you ever get a chance to actually talk with him at all and have some conversation?
No, I've never talked to him, and I was honored to have him actually you know, analyze one of my videos, one of my audios. It's actually analyzing the audios.
Oh, it's a howl. Yeah,
the howl that I caught on. It's the only part of my evidence I've ever caught as far as just audio. But it's gotten a lot of attention. A lot of people's, you know, even, you know, when Thinker Thunker looks at it and says, hey, you know, these things ain't human, whatever's in here. You know, you've seen an analysis. You know, you can pretty much, you know, count on it. There was something other than coyotes and bugs screaming and hollering. But again, you can find this on my YouTube site, or just Google Dale Boswell. It's the easiest way to, you know, if you want to find my music or my Bigfoot stuff and all that. You know, I guess that'll take it the quickest to everything. But yeah, I looked that up, and the audio. I'll explain it. I don't know if you can play it now or not, but if you get a chance to listen to it, what happened is my uncle was living in Florida. He come up one evening, and my son-in-law was here, and they wanted to go boogering or Bigfoot, you know. So it got about 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, and again I contribute this to the sneaking thing, because it's not far from my house, down the road, 7, 8 miles. There's a road that I found a while back, and it's called Wild Man Bottom Road. And it caught my attention driving by one day, and I thought, you know, what is that, you know? Because, you know, people name roads for a reason or after something, you know.
100%.
Why would
I agree.
why would they name that Wild Man Bottom Road, you know? And to this day, I haven't found an answer why or where that name come from, but just, I started driving my 4-wheel drive truck, or, old Dodge, down through. It's very squatchy, and down by a little creek, one lane creeks and bridges and things, and it goes back a few houses, but it's cool little drive. So I said, okay, let's ride down the Wild Man Bottom Road. So this time, being there was 4 of us, we got my wife's car, which is a lot quieter than my old Dodge that I take. And I don't know if this contributes to it or what, but my old Dodge is old school, 98 Dodge. It's got blah, 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 blah. I got the old school mufflers on there,
Yeah.
So them burgers know when I'm coming. They just know, But this time with my wife's car, which is, quiet car. So we parked down by the same area I usually stop and turn around at, up by a little bridge in a creek. And when I say turn around, it's important to always remember, because and my dear friend Kumbo Baker taught me this a long time ago. He said when you go out Bigfooting or any time out in the woods, always park your vehicle in the exit position, because you really don't know when it's going to be time you need to get in the car and go, for whatever reason. So I've
Great
always made that a
advice.
habit. Mm-hmm. So I did, car, and we got out. We had video cameras, of course, and I had just a voice recorder. So I had opened up the tailgate of the car and just set the voice recorder just on the back right there, so nobody touch it, bump around anything, just to maybe catch something. So I had my son-in-law. He's never done a whoop or a holler, like we like to do out in the woods, which something I can't do anymore. I had surgery in 2011. And I don't have high notes anymore. They took out my falsetto. But anyway, I told him, I said, okay, you do it, Jim. I said, what you do? He said, I said, I want you to scream just as long and as loud as you can, just like you, a mad little 12-year-old cheerleader. So he took off with he got just high voice anyway, and it's the first time he ever done it. And he let out a yell, then it was good. So we just stood there, and about 20 seconds later, you hear one type howl. Then just a few seconds later, you hear another and another and another. Then it sounded like the whole woods came alive. I mean, to the point where you listen to it, you're hearing all these critters, and there's coyotes in the mix, getting louder and louder. It's because they were coming towards us, and it was quick. So it was the first time I ever used that rule, and I said, we got to just get in the car and go. I don't know what's coming this way, but there's a lot of them, and no, we got to go. And I kind of wish I'd have stayed, but according to what Thinker Thumper and Coonbo Baker and some of my friends that I trust and are credible and kind of know what they're listening to, have heard a lot more than I have. They think there was at least there was a Bigfoot in there or two, and maybe even a dog man. I'm not sure, but you can look up the Thinker Thumper video. I think it's the Boswell video, I think is what's got on it, but he'll explain it better than I did. But that was fascinating, and it's the only audio evidence I've ever captured. So
Yeah, when I listen,
I don't have a whole lot of it, but I've got a little bit of everything.
yeah, when I listened to it, I don't know, I felt like I caught 3 different howls in there, 3 different creatures, and maybe one of them was coyotes, and the other, but it was so loud. Like that's the thing is like you can't replicate how loud these things are, and that's the thing that people always don't understand if they're not looking into this subject. Like, oh, that's just a coyote. Oh, that's just an owl. It's like how how is something that making that much noise from that far away? We understand forest echoes, and there's a lot of stuff that happens with that, but I mean, once you hear it for the first time and you really like it clicks, like there's nothing that makes this kind of noise.
Yeah. I analyzed the audio a few times myself. I have the expertise as Thinker Thunker does, but I can get around on play with audio software. Being a musician, kind of used to fooling with that stuff. But I remember analyzing the audio, and I got down where I isolated the crickets and the noise, in the woods. all the crickets and bugs, whatever, making it all the racket like that. And it was so weird. Is after Jim made that call, his initial call, you could hear the crickets and stuff. Say like they was a level like all this and stuff. And as soon as that first little went, it's like all the bugs and the crickets quieting down.
Yeah.
And that and I don't know, maybe they were saying, "Oh Lord, here they come," we better be quiet. But yeah, a lot of people really like that audio, and I'm still fascinated every time I hear it. And like you say, it freaks me out. I'm like, God, what is all that stuff? What is all those critters back there?
Yeah, and like you said, maybe there was a dogman too. Like, what makes you think there could be dogmen out there? What makes other people that have mentioned that to you? Like, have you ever seen? I think you mentioned on your video that you might have seen one kind of turning, or what looked like one turning. That's interesting. If there's dogmen out there with Bigfoot, they're probably competing with each other.
I don't know if they're competing or running with each other or what, And like I said, I don't know the difference. It's just people who know a little bit more about the audio captures and listening to the sounds better than I do. But all I'm saying that they think they hear a combination of dogman and Bigfoot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe a dogman maybe sound more like a. That's
Like
where
a
you
wolf.
got some maybe from super duper coyote sound where it sounds like a coyote, but that's way too big for a coyote. But I don't
Yeah.
know. That would make
Yeah.
sense to me.
Well, so with you being interested in all this, and it sounds like you have some cool friends that are involved with it because I've heard of Kumbo quite a bit,
Doug
and
Hijack
others,
too.
and of
He's
course
awesome.
Doug. But what's your end goal on your side for this? Like, you're interested in this subject. I always like to ask people, like, what do you think? What's your end goal? Like, what's the reason you're into this, and what do you hope happens with the Bigfoot research?
Well, I'm currently I'm writing a biography, and it's called From the Big Stage to Bigfoot, and because people have always for years been saying, when you going to write a book and tell some of them behind the scenes stories, around the country music world and things, and some of the cool things and the stories surrounding the photographs that people have seen, and then I'm going to talk about how I got to the Bigfoot and things such as that, because Bigfoot and music have always been my two biggest passions. As you could tell before we started the interview, you got me started on music, like not got me to hush. I can go all day long with music and Bigfoot. But as far as goals, I'm I'm very satisfied with the evidence that I've got. I've proven and I tell everybody the proof I've got is I can't prove to nobody but to myself. You can look at it, you can analyze it all you want to, but the only person that's going to know 100% proof that those critters were on that film were out there was me, because I was the one standing there with the camera by myself in the woods, and on my Sony SD card or whatever, it's inside that old camera. So, unless some computer expert from California snuck into my house one night and grabbed my camera SD card and took it back to California and put some CGI in there and then snuck it back to my camera in Alabama, then hoped I'd find it 3 years later. Explain to me what's on there. So I'm a firm believer. So I enjoy getting out, meet and greets, and going camping with friends. But as far as researching, I don't do that much anymore. I got a few health issues, and I'm satisfied with what I found. And that they're there. But and I'm always looking. Of course, I'm always looking. Even here in my backyard, I'll sneak out there with my thermal imaging camera and things here every once in a while. But I've been just kind of slowing down and enjoying everybody else. And
Yeah,
research.
it's funny. There's a lot of like us. I think all of us are knowers. We all know they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, like, and I think more and more shows like this are coming out, and like all the Bigfoot TV shows, and there's a lot more researchers, a lot of more people out there with cameras and stuff, and that are looking for these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and also just a lot more stories are getting exposed of
Yeah.
eyewitness accounts, and so as you
And
go
a
on, I
lot,
think,
and a lot of young people too, and
yeah,
that's what makes me feel like a dinosaur is is some people, or even my own group, the Squatch Seekers of the South, is my group right here in town where I live at,
Mm-hmm.
and one that's hosting these town hall meetings and these uh, uh, a big presentation coming. We got a big one coming up in March. I got to look that up. Boombo's going to be there. M.K. Davis is going to be there. Stacy Brown's going to be there.
Oh
I'm
wow.
going to be playing little live music there. We're going to have a ghost hunt, all kinds of stuff going on. But anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun. And shoot, man, I enjoy just now just camping out and meeting people and as far as in the woods, trekking through the woods at the middle of the night and stuff, I don't do that as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Like the information age is opening up the door for a lot of younger people to start realizing that this is, and I think younger generation, we don't have that whole like, you don't ask questions, you don't want to sound crazy. I feel like the younger generation's like, we don't care. Like we're just gonna look
Yeah.
into this and no one's stopping us. And so I think there's a
Yeah,
different
yeah,
mindset shift.
they're doing the same thing I did when I was younger. When I started researching, the
Yeah.
people I looked up to was showing video, and then they said, "Oh yeah, we seen that. Oh yeah, yeah, that's been debunked." So everything I find, and now I'm that dinosaur, and I'm seeing all that stuff. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I seen that 10 years ago. Yeah, that's been around a long time. Oh look at this new video. Oh no, that's been around.
That's been there forever.
So I'm the official Bigfoot historian in my group, I guess.
Well,
Have you ever asked any of those big celebrities that you've worked with or any musicians you worked with if they believe in Bigfoot?
oh, that's a good
Have
question.
you had any funny, cool answers from any of them?
Actually, and I do have a video on my page that I have nothing but celebrity interviews on there and a couple of others where I interviewed folks, and I have run into a few, and uh, one of them that's on there is, and this is more fun, but more an actual sighting. But you remember Enos from the Dukes of Hazzard?
Yeah.
The guy who played Enos. What's his name? Schroyer is his last
Mhm.
name. But anyway, I did a show with him one time. So after the show, I said, Enos, I want to do something fun here. I like playing with Bigfoot stuff, so just play along with me. So I got my camera up, and I said, Enos, are there any Bigfoots in Hazard County? And he said something like, well, Daisy has pretty feet. And he does a little laugh, and he said, and Boss Hog, oh, he's got a little ugly feet. He said, but old Bo Duke's got big feet, so he might be the bit. But he goes on like that, and it's more just for entertainment. But I was speaking at a convention one time. There's a lot of celebrities there, and I was doing the Bigfoot part of the show. And when I got there, I didn't know if it was going to be there. I walked by and seen. You remember Butterbean was
Yeah.
world renowned
Boxer?
Yeah.
boxing fighter. He's actually from Jasper, Alabama, which is not, and it still lives there, which is not far from from my home.
Yeah, he's one of
But
our
anyway, I
stepdad's
seen him
favorite
there.
boxers, you know?
Yeah, I knew who he was. I never followed him that much, but I recognized him. So, I went to talk to him and was taking a few pictures. And I told him what I was there for the Bigfoot, and he went to tell me about when his brother saw a Bigfoot. And he said he didn't see it, but his brother saw it and called him freaking out and said by the time he got there, they looked and stuff, But he let me post that. There's a few other things in there, but I always ask celebrities, and most of them, are reluctant to talk in public about it. But there's a lot
Yeah.
of them that are interested in it, like we are. They follow it just like we do. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
That's
Well,
awesome.
I just looked up the BFRO because I haven't looked into it, but it's really cool to see that there's at least 106 sightings in Alabama alone, and then in Georgia there's 146. So your
Those are
area
just
is
the reported
pretty
ones.
ripe with it, and that is just the reported ones. Because yeah, I mean had a sighting. I didn't report it, so it's one
right.
of those things, right, where it's like it's hard to get people to be willing to. So there's definitely a lot more that's happening than even that. Because even in our area in Utah, there's only 72 sightings total, and the most recent one from Alabama is 2021. So really cool to see that. And so I think you're
Oh
definitely in a
yeah,
right spot for sure.
not many people send their accounts into their I don't get their network
Yeah.
much as they used to do. I don't think, but there's so many sightings in Alabama. You know, being in, I'm sure you hear it as much as I do, and just areas all around me. You know, just towns and places I've been, camping and stuff, and you know, and you always hear, you know, well, how can I see Bigfoot? How can I find him? And, you know, I always tell people just the same way I did, just go out there and have fun because they're going to find you. You know, that's the
Yeah.
best way to find them because they're curious. We're their entertainment, what you always hear. You know, and I totally believe that. Because, you know, most sightings, especially during the daytime, are seen by people out playing ball, fishing, whatever. Because these things come out, you know, see what's going on, I guess, you know. So,
Yeah, I think you're doing a good thing because I've seen your Facebook page, and I think you're doing a good thing by just playing your music and singing songs right next to the forest. And I really like that. There was one song that you did that I thought was really good, but and I haven't like watched a bunch of them, but I thought it was really cool that you're doing that because it's like you're just as long as you're just doing your thing, you know, like if you're out there hanging out with a group of people, starting a fire, singing songs, like dude, I think that's when
Best
the
chances.
best chances happen
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah, yeah. And, you know, I've always heard that these boogers, you know, like music, or most animals, I guess, kind of like music, but I've heard Sasquatch like music. So anytime I've got my guitar around the campfire in the woods and playing, I always tell everybody, you know, just don't pay much attention, but just always watch behind my shoulders, see if you see anything what's going on. You know, if you see anything, let me know. You know, maybe someone will come up and, you know, look for us or whatever. And actually, not long ago, up in around Alex City and that area at Hollins Park is an area we go camping out quite a bit. It's very squatchy, all kinds of activity up there. But last time we was up there, we had possibly a little bit of activity while I was picking and singing, and with a friend of mine, Billy Shelling, and we were singing and stuff. And things got a little crazy. Our equipment started cutting off, turning off, like, you know, it's fully charged. But the little portable speaker thing we had, we couldn't figure out why it was, you know, we just charged that. You know, so we don't know if them boogers was sending when them infrasound signals, they didn't like what we was doing, they was cutting us off or what. But that was a weird thing too. But there's so much weirdness in this world.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, and I've done it all from the ghost hunting, you know, to this Bigfoot stuff. So it's real, all of it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one last thing, because I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're getting pretty far into this. Since you just brought up the ghostly or spiritual thing, do you think that there is a spiritual aspect to Bigfoot? And also, what do you think, like, what do you think, like the natives always talk about it, right? And sometimes they say they're animals, sometimes they say they're
Like
people,
protector of
sometimes
the
they
woods.
protector of the forest. What's your opinion? Do you think there is a spiritual realm, a spiritual situation with Sasquatch?
I truly believe there is. You know, I haven't researched it that deep, but just what a few times I've talked to American natives, say the same thing about how spiritual these boogers are. And a few years ago, I had the opportunity to go to New Mexico with some friends and to play and sing a little bit at a conference there. And the host of the conference, Miss Brenda Harris, which is a legendary figure in the Bigfoot world.
Yeah.
She a good friend. She took us way up in the mountains later that night. I mean, it was when they were creeping up with a 4-wheel drive. It seemed like you was never going to get. You know, I've never been up in mountains that high. You know, and it was. I mean, we had a shaman with us, native shaman, and there were just a few of us there, including Mark Newble. You know, Mark Newble, he was with us. Dan Ricky, a few other people. My daughter was with us, of course, Brenda and her son. But we had set up a campfire there, and we started talking about the spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And the shaman would tell us the stories, but what was so cooler is he was a fan of my music. So he would sing a native song kind of related to Bigfoot, kind of like a Bigfoot song in his language. Hey, you know how they do. Like me, I can't imitate him. But and then he would explain what he's saying. Then I'd have to sing a song. Of course, I couldn't sing it, but in one language, So, but that was a lot of fun. But the craziest thing is that happened that day is well, the second craziest thing is my daughter had a thermal camera, was just kind of viewing around, looking at night. And later on, after we got home, it was Mark. I think it was Mark's camera. He found out that she had captured a booger, a big silhouette of a booger outline or person, somebody else way up in the mountains in the middle of the night, out in the middle of nowhere. And we figured the booger was there, possibly watching us play and sing. So it might have worked then.
There you go.
Yeah. So
That's awesome. It's really cool.
Well, Dale, I think that's really fascinating. I like that. Like I said, I've been following you around, I've seen you on other pages, and I've heard you on Bigfoot Society and some of the things I listen to as well. And I just appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us. Is there some things? I know you plugged a couple things that you're doing, the book that you're writing and your website and stuff, but is there a final thought you want to put out there, and then just give us some of your plugs so we can share it with everyone?
I'd like to just brag on something, because I think just the coolest thing in the world. But we just went to a film premiere. I don't know if you've seen my post, but me and my team, the Squatch Seekers, are actually in a film that's going to be coming out soon. And we just, like I say, we just went to the premiere this past Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called Southern Scares, and it's a movie about based on a 90s video store with haunted videos, and each video told a different story.
Oh, cool.
Oh, it's like Creep Show or
That's
something.
my alley.
I like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. And there's a Bigfoot section in there about an Alabama Bigfoot, and it was me and my team that told that story. And we're right at the front of the film, so you kind of see my big old mug to start with. But we're actually just playing ourselves, so we didn't have to know parts, and told some of the story I just told you just now, But the coolest thing about it is the actress Dee Wallace is also in the film. You may not recognize the name too quick, but she was E.T.'s mama in E.T.
Oh, wow.
She played in Cujo. She played in The Hills Have Eyes and all kinds of them. She's known as the movie horror queen.
Yeah, I recognize her face. I just looked her up.
Yeah, I know who she is. That's awesome.
Yeah. But that was just so cool, just being, even though we didn't get to meet her, because our family is from here and there and there. But it was so cool to know I'm in a film with E.T.'s mama. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That is cool.
That's neat.
Yeah, but that's about it, I guess.
Cool.
that I
And
can
tell
think
us
of.
the book title again, and when is that coming out?
Oh, well, yeah, the book title is called From the Big Stage to Bigfoot. And man, writing books is easy. It's just finish them. I'm trying to finish them. It's the hard part. Because every time you think at the end, you'll think of something else, and write another chapter, another paragraph. But I'm going to try to finish it this year. So hopefully by the end of this year, it'll come out. But I'll keep everybody posted.
Yeah, once it's ready, we'll promote it all over the place as soon as it's out there, and we'll pick up a copy too, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then what was your website one more time?
I got a private Bigfoot page. It's called Boogerville, and it's where I show a lot of my evidence stuff. And it's just private, real private. I probably hadn't got 200 members there, just kind of for friends and family and people I meet. But my regular just Facebook page is, I think it's Dale Boswell Music, or again, just Google me, and you'll get my music and my Facebook pages and all my contact information, and we got some cool stuff coming up. Hopefully, in the next couple of days, you may hear some songs that I have written on national radio. Not by me, but recorded by some other artists. But that's the dream of every songwriter, is to have your songs recorded by other artists. So that's what it's all about. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
So that's a non-public thing. I ain't talked about too much yet, but it might happen starting tomorrow or the next day. So.
Nice. That's amazing.
Well, congrats to all your future endeavors. We're really excited to see where things go for you, and I can't wait to see. And also, really quick, are we okay to share some of the videos that you sent me already as a part of this, like links to that and everything? We're good to do that, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Feel free to share any of it. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see where you go with your music stuff. I know you've been working on that for some time, and like I said, he's got some talent. If you guys get a chance, check out the Facebook page. I've seen some of his recent videos that he's done, probably just playing around doing whatever. But it's always I love country anyway, so I feel like you're always telling a fun story when you're doing it. So
And my
appreciate you
my
being here.
Facebook page is basically centered around entertainment. I don't post a whole lot of personal drama type stuff. It's just based about my Forrest Gump adventures, and the music and the Bigfoot world. But I try to post fun stuff and keep it entertaining for people.
Well, we look forward to it
Great.
again, and I'm hoping we can stay friends and communicate. I'll share one of the songs I wrote to you and see what you think, and you can just
Oh
write all the red
yeah,
marks on it and say F if you want to, because it's probably pretty
yeah.
bad.
No. There's never no bad song. They're just songs that need to be worked on.
There you go. Well,
Well,
thanks
that
again,
kind of
Dale.
rhymes. There's your one there. There's never no bad songs. There's only the ones that need to be worked on. Oh, don't you steal that line. I'm gonna write that song.
Well, thanks again, Dale. We appreciate you being here. We'll let you go, but and we'll update you as soon as we get it posted. And
Yeah,
thanks again for
it's been a
taking the
pleasure.
time.
Big pleasure.
Hey, it was an honor. I appreciate the invitation. And anytime y'all want me to come back and jabber a little bit, you just holler at me, and I'll be here. And we'll have some fun.
Sounds
Sweet.
good, Dale.
Awesome.
Thanks again, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Good night.
All right. Have a good night.